Hi folks, Tim here. Welcome back to Elmendorf Acres. We are in the sugar house today, as you can see. You can see I've already had been elbows deep in this evaporator this morning cleaning things up. But we're going to fire this up and hopefully do some tours, some walk-arounds. This is a new system for us. I've run it a couple times this year. I wanted to run it a few times before we did a live. That way I had an idea what was going on and made sure everything was working well. So let me make a couple adjustments on this camera here and then try to get everything fired up for you. Let's see. A little better. Trying to get things situated here. I apologize if it's wiggling and moving for the first minute. Trying to make sure we've got it aimed so you can see everything. There we go. All right. Let's fire it up. I didn't have any newspaper handy, so I was just using cardboard that something came in a couple days ago. All right, we'll give that a minute to get situated. You're going to hear some things bouncing around a little bit, shifting, adjusting as the heat hits it. That's perfectly normal. You'll see me walking around a lot, making some adjustments as needed. I do not plan on running this really hard today. I'll take a walk around back in a couple minutes and look at exactly how much sap that we have to boil today, but we want to boil as much as we can because it's going to be pretty warm. We don't want things to go sour. One of the things we did this year is we did upgrade from an IBC tote feeding it to a stainless double wall old milk tank feeding it. So when you're feeding one of these things, welding gloves are your friend. I would recommend a long sleeve shirt as well, for sure. As you can see, I'm not wearing one, but that's kind of par for the course for me. However, when you're feeding these, they get really hot. This fire brick gets so hot it actually glows white. So you want to be careful with this. You want to be careful with kids around. Abby's got the kids elsewhere today, so it's just me in the sugar house. And I apologize if I don't talk for the first few minutes too much. We are just trying to get some things set up and adjusted. So you'll hear we've only been running what I started the fire about 2 minutes ago, and at least I can already hear that we have a little bit of warmth going on. I can hear it starting to hiss and bubble a little bit. Hopefully you can hear that over there. And there is a little bit of steam already as I'm looking in this door here. There's the tiniest little bit of steam already in this back pan. So 2 minutes after we fired, we already have a little bit of steam. All right, I just took a look around back, and I'll bring you folks back there in a little bit. But I took a look around back. We've got 325 gallons to go through today, which should not take too terribly long. I found that running this by myself, I can very comfortably, without running hard at all, we can very comfortably push 42 to 44 gallons of sap per hour boiled. If we're running it hard, when I had Owen here, he was feeding it the other day, excuse me, we were running it pretty hard, we were actually able to push, I think, right around 50 gallons per hour. So if that's the case, if we're pushing 50 gallons an hour, it takes a little time to get up to temperature, but I consider my total gallons per hour based off of when we fire, where I just did a couple minutes ago, all the way through to when I start to cool down. That's where I pull the gallons per hour. So for the first half hour, we're not going to produce much as far as our gallons per hour, let's say. We're going to produce some steam, but it takes a while to get all that fire brick and everything, this whole evaporator, really warmed up and running the way it should. So before it gets going too much and too steamy, let's pull you over here. Apologize for the camera moving. Let's pull you over here and give you a look inside. All right, here we go. Here's our front pan, which is what you can usually see. This is our syrup pan. I actually drained this morning, or last night I should say, let it sit overnight with some vinegar to get rid of some of the niter. Washed it all back out, got rid of all that, and then dumped the sweet, which is the almost syrup, back in. You can see we've already got some steam here. Let's look in this back pan. Now this is our back pan. This is where the main evaporation happens. You can see we got those flues in there, and we can see it's also, hopefully you can see at least, it is starting to steam. You can see it there. And let's see if I can show you without dropping this in. If you see those stainless lines right up there, it's a little bit blurry. Those stainless lines are the preheat. So this whole thing has a preheat hood, just like our last one did. It's a little bit different. I've got my old man on blind gauge here. We've got another one here. Wanted to make sure that these were working properly. Had a little issue with this one the first day, so I put this one in as well. We've been comparing both of them. I've been very happy with the liter evaporator one, not quite as happy with this one. And that's nothing against Bascom Maple at all. There's just a little issue with this thermometer compared to this one. This one jumps a little more. You can see how it kind of jerks, the needle jerks. It does that periodically. Here's our sight glass, and this allows us to know how much sap is in the back tank, or the back pans here. And these are our safety marks. I don't want to be above that because I'll lose a lot of my productivity, and I don't really want below that. That's kind of the oh no mark. I can go another 1/4 inch below that without any issue as far as burning or scorching anything. But this is our sight glass. This is our back float pan. Now this is going to look a little different than the last one. Here's our float here. Very simply adjusted with this screw going up and down. Super easy adjustments. All the fittings on this evaporator are dairy type sanitary fittings. Everything is stainless steel or food grade. You can see this is for raw milk service. It's upside down, but food grade lines. So this is where our hot sap comes in. Let's come around over here for a moment. And I'm gonna have to put this phone down here and just to refeed this fire. But our feed line comes down here, hits this 90, and it runs through here. I've got a valve here so I can turn it on and off. You can see that I don't have it all the way open, just to help keep some of that head pressure off this float box. I've got it cracked only about 1/4 of the way open. This flows in the bottom, and this is where it was really hard to get everything set up and figure it out because I couldn't wrap my head around this. Our old setup, the cold sap went in the top, flowed through, and gravity fed out the bottom. This is completely opposite. Your cold sap goes in the bottom right here, It goes inside this hood. Inside this hood, there's a distribution box, which then runs through those 3 or 4 stainless tubes, comes back out to another distribution box here, and your hot sap then flows out the top down here. And this is now into your float box. So it's a little bit weird, a little bit hard to get your head wrapped around, but it does work really well. One thing that was a little difficult for me is they did not give any instructions at all for the hood setup. So I had to spend some time on the phone with the salesman. This is they call it a sniffer, breather, burper, whatever you want to call it. This is a tube that goes all the way up, and you can see it goes up through our steam vent there, and that goes up higher than our feed tank. Really important, or else you'll just basically lose all your sap out that until you're down to where your feed tank level is. This is a bypass. If something happens in here, I can kick this valve, and this instead will also flow into the float box. It's also a great way at the end of the day to drain your hood. All right, let me turn this camera back around. I've got to get some wood on this fire. There we are. Same as we always do, we are using dry hemlock and pine. It's a great way for us to get rid of it. Sometimes we'll have some spruce or something we're burning, cedar, but it's always a soft wood. Burns well, gives us that flame that we need to run this thing nice and hot. All right, let me do a walk around here, make sure everything looks good. Front pan's boiling, back pan's boiling. Steam is coming out. Our condensation buckets are collecting water, which is great. Okay, I'll continue the tour in a moment here, but I want to get this fire going good. The old leader the old leader arch, because you remember we kind of had a modified system with small brothers, Lapierre, Waterloo pans, and we had a leader arch. This is all brand new. This is all made by Lapierre. The old arch on the front right here is where the damper was. This is very different. The damper is actually in the back. It seems to help with the airflow. Right, some of the guys will put blowers on these arches. I don't feel the need for that, especially since we're burning nice dry pine. What you see here, hopefully it's just inside the video. Right here is a chain and there's a little hook here. And the arch is just a simple flapper in the back. All right, let me fire a little more wood in here. My goal today is to get this thing as hot as I can, as fast as I can, which is very different from the first time we had fire in it. I wanted to go kind of low and slow because it was all new fire brick, all new insulation. Nothing had ever had heat in it before. So I wanted to make sure that we brought everything up to temperature nice and slow. That's the recommendation for these, is that first fire that you do, if it's new, nice and slow. We actually did our first boil with a couple 100 gallons of water. We brought it up to a boil, we flushed everything out. We brought it up to a boil, we flushed everything out. We did that a couple times because these pans, everything is all brand new. It's all got some of that manufacturing residue on it. So we did that. I put vinegar in it, let stuff sit that way. Vinegar, as far as these stainless steel pans and eating that niter off, vinegar is one of the best natural things you can put in them. Like I said earlier, when I first started this live today, what I did last night is I let everything cool down. I pulled everything off the front pan. All that syrup came off the front pan. I filtered it through just one pre-filter. It got rid of some of that niter that was in that syrup. Then I took one of our buckets of the condensate from this hood, which is basically a distilled water, and I dumped that in the front pan, dumped some vinegar in with it, let it sit overnight, flushed it all out before we started back up. But that ate that niter right off the bottom, and without that little film of niter on the bottom, which does kind of bake to the bottom of these pans and the inside, it also helps our productivity as far as boiling. But this setup is a lot easier to do that than my old setup was. To tension the pans and make sure they're nice and tight together. They have these two, you can see them, the little silver on the screen here. They look like a star or an X, however you want to look at it, plus sign. But these are little screws that you just tighten, and there is a piece of angle iron right here that pushes these pans back together so there's no gap between the pans. So that works really, really well. Makes it really easy as well to just loosen this up and prop this front pan up just a touch. I just stick a wrench or something like that under it just to give me that 1 inch of flow so it flows through a little faster when I'm rinsing it. It helps with cleaning. So if you have any questions at all, please put a comment. I will do my best to answer them. It's been a while since we did a live, actually. It's been this time last year, I think, as far as the sugar house. I may have done one when I was milling some lumber or something like that. But it's been a little while since we played with that. We've got a nice boil in the back pan now. We've got a nice boil in the front pan. And let's see what it says. It says we've been live for 18 minutes. So that means about 17 minutes ago I actually fired this thing up. I lost a little bit of time as we did that first walk around, but we've got a full boil in the front pan. We've got a nice boil in the back pan. Not quite up to temperature yet, but it's awfully close. So this is a little bit different than our old setup. Our old setup was, like I said, Small Brothers pans, still had the preheat hood. A little bit different looks, but the general idea was the same. We had a liter 2x6 arch. The big upgrade for us this year was everything is new, everything matches. And we also went from a 2x6 to a 2x8 setup. So that is measured in your pans. 2x6 usually means you've got a 2 foot by 2 foot front pan, which is your sugar or your syrup pan, your sweet pan. And a 2x6 means that you have a 2 foot by 4 foot back pan. This being a 2x8 means I have a 2 foot by 3 front pan and a 2 foot by 5 back pan. Yes, I can do basic math sometimes. Don't ask me to do it at the end of today. I will be tired. You remember the last arch had a little chimney that looked like it. It came up kind of as a diagonal like this to help push some of the steam up into our cupola. This hood from LaPierre comes with this big 12-inch steam stack. Now that you have to be able to put a hole in the top of your your hood where you want. But it makes it really, really nice because I was able to pour everything, set everything. We got everything set. I put this hood on, and then I was able to take my steam stack and fit it right up between the rafters. So I was able to put it exactly where I want. I marked it out. It comes with a little square to round adapter, let's say. So I put that down, cut a round hole out, and we just set this on. This is not attached other than gravity. If you had, I think this came with 12 foot of steam stack. If you had 12 foot of steam stack on this, you would definitely want to attach it in some way. I didn't do it just because we only have one section, just enough to push it up into the coop lid. Let's get a little more wood on this. I can hear the boils calming down. So there's a lot more to maple syrup and boiling than it might seem, especially as you get a little more involved. I grew up doing this with my grandfather on a setup that he built entirely on his own. The only thing that he had custom done was a flat pan that he brought to a welder because he wanted a stainless flat pan. At the time, there was a whole lot of solder, things like that. Stainless wasn't real popular yet, but he wanted a stainless flat pan, so he did bring that to a welder. But he built his own arch, and that's the way I grew up, was starting with my grandfather doing this. He always wanted, maybe not one like this, but I know he always wanted a bigger setup, an actual evaporator. And they were just coming out when he had built his most recent setup. So he never got the chance to own one of these, to be around one of these when we owned it. But we think, well, we're positive he would have enjoyed this. But the whole syrup industry and all the machinery, because this is a machine really, all the machinery and the tools used have really, what word am I looking for? They've really advanced over the last 25 years or so. And it's becoming more scientific. It seems like it's becoming more scientific every year. A lot of folks are using reverse osmosis now. We still don't do that. I personally don't like it, but that's very much a personal opinion. I've got a ton of friends that use it. Your big producers have to use it, right? Because no matter how fast you're going with this, you can only boil just so many gallons per hour. But let's say right now I think we're about 2% sugar, 2.1% sugar in our sap. And what that means is we got to boil down about 40 gallons of sap to create 1 gallon of syrup. Now, earlier in the year, our first run was 2.7. So that equated right about, I think, to about 31.3 or 31.6 gallons boiled down to create 1 gallon of syrup. Your big producers, these big guys that are supplying big grocery stores, they have to use reverse osmosis to get it down to where they only have to boil, let's say, 8 gallons to produce that 1 gallon. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to handle it. They wouldn't be able to keep up with the demand, or their sap would spoil before they could boil it. So I've got personally nothing against somebody who wants to use reverse osmosis. It's a great tool that you keep in your toolbox. Again, we don't use it. I don't feel the need for it right now, but that's one of the tools and one of the sciences that's involved in this. Let me throw a little more wood on. I am by no means a scientist. Not my strong suit at all. Maybe a little bit of a bad scientist when I'm running this thing, but as you get involved in the maple industry, whether you're tapping 2 or 3 trees with your kids, or whether you have where we are now, which is about 350 taps out, big evaporator setup like this, you can learn a lot of scientific stuff all around maple. Let me do a walk around again before I keep going. Always got to keep an eye on things. I want to make sure we don't burn anything. I want to make sure that my levels are good and everything looks okay. All right, they look pretty good. So one of the first things everybody wants to know is what's the best weather for maple syrup or maple sap. Because maple sap's what runs out of the trees. And it'll come out looking almost clear with just the tiniest little bit of sugar taste. And that's where I was saying you've got 2.1, 2.7. As this warm weather's hitting, you're probably down in the 1.8, 1.7 range. So the best weather for the sap to run is cold at night and warm during the day. And not today. Today's going to be 70 degrees. It's horrible. But that nice, let's say 24 to 26 degrees at night. The next day you're going to have a sunny day, somewhere between 38 and 42, 45, something like that. That sap is going to run like crazy. And we've actually got a couple days like that next week. I'm hoping that we can make it that far. Usually what happens is we've had the warmth like we just did the last couple days, along with today and tomorrow. It will kill the season, but we still had snow on the ground. So I am really, really hoping that that holds off the budding of the trees, and that holds off those holes sealing up as fast. So the snow on the ground has helped us. The sap has been coming in very cold, which has also helped. But that's the first thing, that's your first maple weather, is you want to see those 40 degrees during the day, high 30s, low 40s, and that mid 20s at night. That is perfect, perfect maple weather. A day like today, a day like yesterday, I think it was 60 something yesterday, it's supposed to be almost 70 today. That sap, if you have it sitting out somewhere, like let's say if you have it in a 5-gallon bucket like this, if you're doing just a couple of taps with your kids, that's going to spoil really fast. Find a way to keep it cold. We actually have 5-gallon buckets that we rotate through the freezer, and we've been dropping those 5-gallon ice chunks in our bulk storage tank just to help keep that sap cold. So that's a couple of tips if you're doing really small scale with the kids. Anybody can make a little bit of maple syrup as long as you have access to a maple tree. And it doesn't have to be a sugar maple. You can tap a silver maple, a red maple, or a sugar maple. There's some others as well. You can look that up online. I won't get into all that. But you can make good syrup with that. It'll taste probably a little bit different, and your sugar content will also be different. So your red maple, silver maple, they tend to run 50 to 1 or 60 to 1 as far as your 50 gallons or 60 gallons of sap to make 1 gallon of syrup. Whereas our sugars kind of range anywhere from 35 to 1, and then right when we end up calling it towards the end of the year is when it hits like 45 to 1, because it's just too much. The next thing, when you are doing this on your own, is you'll see a lot of people that have fancy setups for filtering. You don't need a fancy setup to filter maple syrup, especially when you're doing it as a hobby. If you're doing it with your kids, don't go out and buy all this fancy stuff. Find a nice clean cotton cloth, filter it once through that, that's all you need. Excuse me. You'll get some sugar sand in the bottom, some settling in the bottom. That is perfectly normal. It's not bad for you. You can use it for cooking. My grandmother and mother both used to use it in baked beans, stuff like that. It's a little bit gritty. It reminds you of sand. That's one of the reasons they call it sugar sand, right? So it's a little bit gritty. It doesn't taste great if you're just gonna lick it out of the bottom of the jar, spoon it out of the bottom of the jar. I mean, my kids like to eat it, but you know, that's kids for you. But you don't need anything fancy to filter your syrup. You can pour that off in a mason jar. It's gonna get that little bit of settling at the bottom. That's fine. You can shake it up if you want and dump it over. My grandfather used to do, and what I would recommend, let that settle down. As you're using it, you're going to pour that good syrup off the top. You get that little bit at the bottom. Use it for cooking, whatever it is that you want to use it for. I think you could probably use it in oatmeal. I don't think you would taste any of the grit there. But you don't need fancy stuff to do syrup with the kids. I will say this, if you're boiling in your house, make sure that fan is going to pull some of the moisture out. Because if you're really boiling, you'll take the wallpaper right off your walls. I guess probably nobody has wallpaper anymore, but you get a lot of moisture buildup in the house. So be cautious with that. I personally bring my syrup right to the point of being done on this front pan. I don't draw it off and then finish it. We bring it right to syrup here. We test it before we bottle it. I'll modify then if I have to, but we usually don't. But that's another option. You can get it really close and then bring it inside, or on a turkey fryer or something like that to finish it. We don't do that, we just bottle inside. For a couple of years we tried bottling in the sugar house itself. It was hard. Made things difficult because I'm running this, we're trying to bottle. It's just kind of a pain. So what we do now is I draw everything off. I get 10 gallons, somewhere like that, throw it in a bottler, heat it up nice and slow. As we heat it up slow, then we bottle everything. We use mason jars almost exclusively. Mason jars are available everywhere. They're not crazy expensive. Those fancy maple leaf jars that you see, my phone's ringing. Hello. Hi. Or maybe it's been, yeah, or maybe it's been down there, whatever. Right. Okay. Thanks. Thanks, Tom. Important phone calls. That's our lawnmower salesman. So gotta take those phone calls. He wants to bring a machine up today so I can demo it. I had to tell him no, I'm doing this instead, which is kind of sad. So anyway, I forget what train of thought I was on, but that's all right. So we are boiling here today. We are making maple syrup. Oh, I was talking about bottling. That's what I was talking about. So we draw it off as syrup. We filter it through. We go through either 3 or 4 pre-filters and then through one thick filter. It goes from there into the draw-off tank. Then once they get about 10 gallons, throw it in a bottler, heat that up. You want to heat that up right about 185 is perfect. 185, 190. Anything past 190, you build that niter, which is what you just filtered out of this front pan when you drew it off. So sometimes we'll get a little bit past, I'll hit 195, it happened to me the other day. So once everything settles out, we'll have just the tiniest little bit of niter on the bottom of the jars. Honestly, I've never had a complaint about that. It's something all natural, and it happens all the time with natural product. It just filled up. See if we can give you a little walk around tour. A couple more in there. All right, so again, our firewood is a dry pine hemlock mixture. When I throw it in, you might not be able to see it. Oh, you might have seen the one just fall out. But I try to stack it in this way, right? Like when you're doing a campfire, when you're making your first campfire, you cross everything. That way that air gets up through. The whole point of these evaporators is as much heat and flame as you can across the entire pan. So I've got to throw 8 feet of flame. So that's one of the reasons we use that hemlock pine. Let's go for a little walk, shall we? Apologize if I'm coughing. I get a little dry once in a while. Let's see here. Turn it around. All right. Here's the other side of the evaporator. I'll just sit here for a moment so you guys can see it. Watch the steam rise. I love the steam rising. It's wonderful. All right. So we saw the other side already where the cold sap flows in. This is the exit from this back pan. We've got another float box here. You can see it's actually running a little bit. This is very simple, also simply adjusted with a threaded rod. That then runs through, again, all dairy fittings, sanitary fittings, runs into this front pan. This front pan works its way through over to there, and you can see the back sides of my thermometers, and that's our draw off side. Let's see if we can get in here without steaming up too bad. Maybe we can see a little bit if you're just joining us. Not too well, but you can see we're boiling pretty good. You can actually see back there is really boiling nicely. That's what we like to see. If you're enjoying this, if you share it with somebody, give a thumbs up. Again, any comments I will do my very best to answer. So these are our condensate buckets. And this one in particular, let me get close to this. This is condensate that is running off of the hood. So all that is from steam condensation. There's no sugar in that. That is just the water that runs off of this hood. And that's a nice copper line we've got up to here. Stainless there. So this right here, inside of this hood, underneath all those preheat coils, is a V like this. And that catches any of the condensation from those coils and brings it out. That way it doesn't drop it back in your pan. So real helpful. Here's the back side so you can see the steam stack. Let me jump over here actually so you can see a little better. You'll see some steam coming out. It's actually, there's a lot of steam coming out. It's just a little hard to see it because the sun's not hitting that part. All right, now to our actual stack. You can see we've been nice and warm already. Oh yes, fire extinguisher. People were asking if we had fire extinguishers. It is right there. And outside the back door is a charged garden hose. That way I've got water in here too if I need it. So you can see we've had this stack pretty hot. That is actually rainbow color. That's purple. It's a little bit hard to see. It looks kind of dark, but that is a rainbow color. So that's our back stack. That thing has gotten quite hot. And I don't have anything fancy up there. I've never had any issues with it whatsoever. This stack actually doesn't run quite as hot as the last one, but we've had no issues with the wood being that close. I've used the little laser thermometer on that a few times. It hits like 120 degrees on the wood there, so that's not bad at all. All right, let's go out back for a minute. And this is one of our collection tanks at the bottom of the hill. It's running a little bit today, but anything that runs today we're going to dump on the ground just because it's kind of less than desirable. And here's our little redneck water tower that we built. Let me climb up on the snowbank here just so you can see it a little better. There we are. That's just an extra support I threw in just because figured it might need it. But we built this real quick the other day just to get going. It will be changed a bit in the spring. These rungs here are just so I don't have to set up a ladder. And that is a 500-gallon double wall stainless milk tank. Threw a tarp over it today just to help keep some of the sun off of it, because even with that insulation, that double wall, it does get warm. You can buy those that are insulated and refrigerated. I would love that. I can't afford that. Let's jump back down here. And take a look over here. If you see that funny looking coil up top there, unfortunately the sun is blaring right at where I want to look, but that is a homemade sight glass. You can see our line going up there, and I can see, let's see where we got. See if I can line this up on camera correctly. Right about there is our current level in the tank, which is 300 gallons. So we've got that all figured out. That way I can come back here, take a quick glance, and know how much is in this tank. What we did here, this is our feed line in. Got a quarter turn valve, PEX tubing here, and then that goes all the way up in, coils up and goes in the top. But we've got one of these sediment filters here. You can see it's been doing its job. It caught some stuff before it made it up into that tank. I want my sap as clean as possible. So we've got that going up. That way it gets rid of any of that crap before it makes it into the tank. Let's put the phone down again because I gotta feed this thing. Feed it a couple times, and I'll give you the rest of the tour as best I can. We're also getting a lot closer to syrup than we were a few minutes ago. My special thermometers, which go from 0 to 50, and I'll show you those and explain those in a few minutes. One of them is reading 5 and one of them is reading 4. So we are getting close to syrup. All right, that'll be good for a minute or two. Let's take a look over here at these thermometers. Try not to move things too fast. As I was saying, I got two thermometers. They should read exactly the same. They are close, not quite exactly the same. These are weird thermometers, right? But once I explain them, hopefully they'll make sense. Right here, it's all upside down. I have it upside down because it's easier to see, especially on this one. As you're walking by, otherwise it'd be up here a little hard to read. But as I'm walking by, upside down makes it easier for me to see. Seems silly, but that's okay. That's what I do. So, boiling water is 0, right? That's a weird thermometer, but boiling water is 0. So the idea is, once we hit 7 degrees above boiling water, we have syrup. Now, I also test with a hydrometer, and I'll show you that in a few minutes. Once we actually draw off, I will do a hydrometer test to make sure everything is about right. But at the beginning of the day, you should set this, put it in boiling water, or excuse me, bring water to a boil. Every day, this is going to change. Water does not boil at 212 degrees all the time. It's based off of elevation, barometric pressure, all kinds of stuff like that. So when I was saying this is scientific, it is 100% scientific, because you can learn about barometric pressure and water boiling and sap boiling and when it's syrup based off of this dial right here. All right, back over here. Here's our sight glass again. If you're just joining us, this is our level in the back pan. Now let's come over here up top. All right, that clear line there is our fresh sap coming in from that holding tank. And you will see I actually have another filter there. Now this blue line here is just so I can drain it without making a mess. I don't want to dump it on everything that's all over in the sugar house, so I can dump that in a bucket. You can actually see it running right now. Let's see. That is running through the filter right now, and that is how fast it's being drawn into the evaporator. So that's how fast we are evaporating, is that right there. And it runs through here. Let me zoom out a little bit. There we go. It makes that 90, and then it comes down to this 90. It goes across. And again, if you're just joining us, I'll explain it. If you've already heard it, hey, I'm sorry, but you can watch it again. The cold sap in this LaPierre hood goes into the bottom. I can't say that enough because it was so confusing to me when I was trying to get this set up. Our cold sap comes across and goes into the bottom. It then goes through, does a loop, and comes out the top. Here is our sniffer, breather, burper, whatever you want to call it. That's a tube that goes all the way up, and that tube needs to be higher than the highest point of your feeder tank. Every now and again, if this hood gets really, really hot, it will boil in there, and once in a while you'll see it go bloop, 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 and a bunch of bubbles will go up and it'll spit a little bit of sap out. Very little bit, probably in the last week we've been running this, I would say maybe a half a gallon spit out, so not too much, but you want that to be outside your sap house. Hot sap comes out here, runs through this tube, and it comes into our float box. And while I'm back here, I'll show you this. This is a bleeder line. It's a way that you can bypass the hood if you need to dump some sap in. And drain at the end of the night is important to know about that. Here's our float pan. The hot sap, after it's been through the preheat, comes through here, and it goes into there. You can see it is actually running. Not quite as visible, but you can see that fluid in there moving. It then flows underneath the float, comes through here, and right there you can see is the other side of this tube here. Flows down this tube, and it drops it in the front of that evaporator. That's how this works. Pretty simple setup once you get it all figured out. It took me a while, I will say that. All right, you can look at those bubbles in the front. Those bubbles are really, really close to syrup. That's just about syrup. This is a sweet front pan right now, which is great. I love to see that. When we do a draw, we'll be drawing a few times rather than just one big draw. I like to do a few smaller draws. You can see this one is at 5.5 and this one is at 5. So they're a little bit different, but they are very close. Again, it's nice to have those two thermometers. All right, that's a halfway decent view. A little bit hard to get a great wide angle, but we get some more wood on this. You'll hear, or at least you'll probably hear, if you're really listening, when I open that door, the boil slows down a little bit. When I close that door, it instantly picks back up. Let me put a little bit of defoam here. Defoam is something as simple as you can use butter if you would like. There's dairy allergies, so we do not. Simple vegetable oil, a drip. Does it, and it causes this pan will fill right up with foam, and it causes that to drop back down. Same with the back pan, it will affect the boil. We do a couple drips in there. A little jar this size, just a couple ounces. I think this is like 4 ounces, something like that. This little jar, I think, lasted me 4 years. We refilled it this year, but works really well. The other thing that happens is when the stuff's boiling, when you get all that foam, it doesn't let that steam escape the same way that it should. It also gives bad readings on the thermometers. There. Some more wood in here. Hopefully we'll do another live stream next week. Hopefully we'll be boiling again after this little cold snap. Hopefully we'll reset these trees. That's what we're really, really hoping for. All right, that was a little bit warm that time. I'm going to get my draw-off tank here set up. That way we're ready to go when that time comes. I was talking about filtering before. We just use simple cone filters. This is that thick filter on the outside, and right now I've got 3 pre-filters. One of the things you do is if you set it here, if I set it here, it'll warm this. That steam will help everything open up a little bit, and that'll help that syrup flow through a little bit faster and less frustrating for everybody involved. I'm actually dumping syrup over here, so I should pull you over here for a minute, just so you can see some of what we made yesterday. This is our draw-off tank here. This is going to go inside, but this is some of the syrup we made yesterday. This has got to go inside to that bottler, and we can can it all up. Actually, a buddy of mine stopped to help me with a couple things, and I cracked this open and gave him a pint right out of the draw-off tank the other day. That's some nice syrup though. It's a nice medium amber now. We were making light amber. First batch that we bottled, about 6 gallons of it, was a light amber. This is a medium. Still on the lighter side, but this is definitely a medium. And this is where you're going to start getting your maple flavor a little bit more. That last batch was really light, very sweet, and not as strong of a maple flavor. So this is where the maple flavor is going to start picking up. gets later in the year, the darker syrups tend to have a stronger flavor. All right, let's jump back over here while that's draining out. Well, you can see now that that is right on 7, and that one is about 6.5. And there's where our bubbles are looking like. Those are very, very sweet, syrupy bubbles. So we'll be drawn off here in a minute. Put this back over here, get myself set up. One of the things that you'll learn, especially if you start doing it yourself, is every drip of syrup is precious. And then you start running an evaporator like this, and you realize that over the course of the year, you probably lose a quart or two just doing stupid things and accidentally spilling something or dropping something, whatever the case may be. Had a little spill the other day, lost about 8 ounces in one shot. Always makes you sad when it happens. But it does happen. So I did that good fire, put a lot of logs in there to keep that hot for a while. I'm going to grab my hydrometer and the test cup. You want these to be warm and clean of sugar. You want no sugar on them because that'll give you a bad reading. I usually keep it over here in the condensate bucket. That hot condensation that's running off that back hood is great. Keeps it nice and warm. Doesn't affect your readings. Really good for cleaning. I put my stuff away clean. At the end of the night, we clean things up. Let's see. Can you see? Oh, no. I want to adjust. Sorry for the wiggling, but at least maybe this way you'll be able to see. Yeah, there we go. All right, here's what we're drawing off. These thermometers are right at 7. We're going to do a quick test here and see where we are, see where it puts us. We'll want to make a couple adjustments because it's not quite where it needs to be. There we go. Always put your draw-off tank or whatever you're drawing into underneath your test cup because you will spill. No matter how careful you are. Did it a couple days ago. Reminded myself why we do that. Let's see, we're getting close. I don't think we're quite there, but we're awfully close. All right. Not quite there yet. And I'll explain that in a minute here. Very close though. 2 more minutes till we have a draw, it looks like. Okay. Watch that steam. That steam is hot. So, this is a hydrometer. This is a syrup hydrometer, not a sap hydrometer. They make 2 different hydrometers. Well, they probably make more than that. But I have a syrup hydrometer and a sap hydrometer. This is a long one. We've got a short one. Depends on your test cup and how you're testing. These are state inspected. It says right on it. State inspected bricks for maple syrup at 60 degrees Fahrenheit. And it'll show you different things, right? So, it makes sense. The colder or more dense something is, the higher up, the more resistance this is going to have. You see we got a drip of syrup going off there. Yeah, that looks like syrup. Right here, this is 59 bricks. And right there, let's see if I can get close enough so you can see it. Hopefully you can see that. It says hot test at 211 degrees. So they figure syrup is syrup at 219 degrees. But in the time it takes us to draw off and get into that test cup, we're going to lose about 8 degrees. That's why the hot test mark is there. And then you've got your cold test mark, which is 60 degrees. So when I get done bottling, we keep it around 60 degrees. Before I bottle, sorry, we put it in that bottler, and that's where the short hydrometer comes in. It's about this long, so it doesn't have as long of a bulb at the bottom, things like that. We do a cold test at 60 to make sure that our syrup is actually syrup before we bottle it. So that's a basic hydrometer. This is where you can teach your kids about specific gravity, right? So, but this is the ultimate test. This tells us whether we're syrup or not. tell you from looking at it, it certainly looks like syrup. So let's do another quick test here and see where we are. I adjusted a few things to do something else and I didn't readjust, so kicking myself on that a little bit. Very, very close to syrup. If it's not there yet, it will be probably after the next firing. Alright. That is syrup. I'm walking over slow here. Hopefully you can see this. I dropped the hydrometer in. See how that red line is actually above where the syrup is. If I push it below, it'll push it back up. That means we're at syrup. So there's your first draw of the day. What do we have? Exactly 1 hour after we fired. That's not too bad. I actually started the front pan with more fluid in it than I should have, so that is not surprising. We're going to draw just a little bit, not a lot. Just a little bit to start pulling some of that sweet across the pan. What we want to do is pull some of that sweet towards this draw upside. And in turn, that's going to kick that float. It's going to kick that float, that hot sap float from that back pan and flow in. And then it'll really start pushing through. We drew off probably about a quart just now. Maybe a touch more, maybe a quart and a half. It's all by eye. I didn't actually measure it. Dumped it straight into that filter. The other key is I take a pot lid and I put it right over top of it. That helps keep these filters hot. It also keeps any of the crud out of this filter draw-off tank. I'm going to get rid of these couple bricks that I had here because they're messing with the height that I want it at. You may notice if you were with us last year, there is a slab underneath the evaporator now. That is new this year. All right, there we go. Let me rinse some of the sugar off my hands. Refire. We want to keep this heat as consistent as we can for as long as we can, because that's where we get our production. If we lose our boil, we lost a couple minutes of production, then it takes a couple minutes to get it going back good again. So every time you lose your boil, when I say lose the boil, this thing will boil for a half hour after we stop feeding it, but it loses the real high production boil. Here, this wood gets back in there. You want to limit how much you open the door, how long the door is open for, but you also want to make sure you keep a good fire going. You'll hear probably within about 30 seconds this thing is going to pick right back up. Yeah, it's hot. Tell you what, that is hot. As it should be. I was told the other day that somebody said they can't imagine what the fires of Mount Doom would feel like, right? From The Hobbit, or from The Lord of the Rings, I should say. Well, he said, all you got to do is come here and feed this thing for a day. You'll know what the fires of Mount Doom feels like. Woo! All right, anyway, so that was our first draw of the day. Let me turn this camera back a touch. How's that? Yeah, it's a little better. That was our first draw of the day. Like I said, we only drew about a quart and a half, somewhere in there. But that starts pulling that sugar from the front pan across, right? Anytime that float runs, it puts that less concentrated sap, where it's not syrup yet, because it's not syrup till it comes off. We call this the sweet pan, the syrup pan, stuff like that. It's not syrup until it comes off and it tests as syrup. But it starts putting that hot, sweet sap here, and as it flows through these dividers and comes towards the front, or the back, this works a little different, but as it comes towards the back where I draw up here, there's different gradients of how much sugar content is in this front pan. So when that pushes through, it starts pushing that sugar, that sweet through, which is exactly what we want. So kind of what I want to try to do today is do a couple smaller draws, do that quart and a half, somewhere in there, just to get things flowing through. I figure we've got about 8 hours of boiling to do today, so I've been going for an hour. We've got 7 hours left to go. This is a much more enjoyable job on a 45-degree day compared to, I think we're probably 65 right now, closing in on 70. And firewood, what do we do for firewood? Why do we use pine? Why do we use hemlock? All those questions have come up. There's no comments that I've seen on this video yet. It could be that I forgot to enable comments. If that's the case, I apologize. It's the first time using this particular setup. But why we use pine, why we use hemlock? It burns fast, it burns hot, it gives lots of flame. That's what we want to run this. Also, we can't, or we don't sell pine and hemlock for firewood inside a house. So we do jobs, we end up with pine and hemlock that can't go to the mill because it's just not good enough. Maybe it's standing dead, something like that. We cut it up, we put it in the totes, we store it, we let it dry. It is awesome to run this. So rather than throw it in the pile and letting it rot, which is great if you're in the woods, but not so great if you've got a nice property and you want it to look nice, so we take this wood away for you. It's a great way to make something out of that wood rather than just putting it through a chipper or a big pile and burning it. So we did a tree job, it was probably last March or April. Actually, you know, it was probably last April or early May, and it ended up taking down 38 or thereabouts smaller pine trees, anything from, say, 4 inches up to about 12 or 13 inches. They were all dead or dying. Every single one of those, we got rid of the tops, we chipped the tops, but all the logs went into a log pile, and we took that log pile, and I think maybe 4 or 5 months ago, the guys cut that up and stacked it in the totes. And that gave us wood, whether we use it for this year, whether we use it for next year, but that's going to give us wood to fire this. So it's a great way to use a byproduct of the work that we do. Oh, we're back. Sorry about that. Phone got hot. Phone got hot. Put it over here where it's a little cooler. And I apologize. Took the protective case off the phone. Hopefully it won't heat up quite as much now. Of course, now I'll probably drop it, but you know, such is life. There we are. Very, very close to syrup once again. Drip of the vegetable oil helps with that foam. There we go. Questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, feel free to comment. I will do my best to monitor that. Hopefully I have comments enabled. I don't remember if I did or not. And if I didn't, I think I have to stop the live stream and do a different one. I forget exactly how that works. But. So, maple syrup. This is a good reminder. I'm drinking coffee right now. I use maple syrup instead of white sugar in my coffee. Absolutely love it. I don't use creamer. I drink black coffee. I think black coffee for probably the last 20 years or so. I will drink it hot. I will drink it cold. I will drink it. I can do a Dr. Seuss rhyme here, but love my coffee. Really, really like it with maple syrup in it. So that's one of the things that we use maple syrup for. If you scan back through our YouTube channel, I actually did a short yesterday of doing a shot of maple syrup. That was driven by the fact that there were some CEOs, and you may be familiar. There were some CEOs who supposedly were trying their product, basically, of hamburgers, or thereabouts, something like that. Hamburgers, cheeseburgers, McChickens, I don't know. Whatever it was they were trying, and there was some controversy as to whether they actually took a big bite. Did they eat it? Did they not eat it? Did they spit it out? Who knows? So I actually did a shot of maple syrup just to be funny, but also I like maple syrup. So one of the comments was, well, I've never been around anybody who just does a shot of maple syrup. My argument is that you've never, ever been in a sugar house, because I can think of 4 sugar houses that I frequent, and the guys running the evaporator will do a taste test, usually in a shot glass, but they will do a taste test of the maple syrup as it comes off. That way they know they've got a good batch, right? We all know we have a good batch, but it's nice to taste it. It's nice to taste some of your hard work as you're doing it. Let me throw another couple logs on this. You want hair on your arms when you're done with the maple season, wear welding sleeves or a long sleeve shirt. Otherwise it'll burn right off. Maybe not even the hair on your arms so much as if you don't want sunburn, because you will actually get sunburn from feeding this thing all day. And I wear the welding gloves. Like I said, I wear these welding gloves. They work well. They cool down quick. That's why I like the welding gloves over, let's say, structural firefighting gloves, which give you more protection from heat. But I'll have a funny little sunburn, basically. Has it started yet? No, not bad. But I'll have a little funny sunburn from here to here from feeding this fire all day. So this one is showing me 7. This one is showing me 7 1/4. We're gonna let this heat build back up again. See what it looks like here in a minute. We should have a draw again soon. I apologize for the issue earlier. The phone overheated, which is what I'm using for this live stream. I'm fancy now, though. I got it on the phone. So last year everything was done on the phone that I was using, and I couldn't get any phone calls or text messages during the day, which made running the business a little bit difficult. So this is a little easier. All right, our cold snap is flowing in at a fairly steady stream. That's great. It's flowing through good. This is hovering right around 7. Very, very close. If you were drawing this off to finish it inside or finish it off the evaporator, you'd be perfectly within your rights to pull this off right now, heat it up inside, filter it. So what you could do, let me back up a touch. You can pull it off right now where it's not quite syrup, filter it through, throw it in the canner, heat that back up, finish it, do your test, finish it, make sure it's actually syrup, filter it once more, boom, into, let's say, your draw-off tank. Dump that back in once you clean your canner, dump that back in, bring that canner up to, and syrup up to canning temperature, which should be really, really quick because you're already going to be right about there, even after a little bit of cool down. So you can do it that way. Like I said, I finish on the evaporator. Does it affect my productivity a little bit? Yeah, it might. Is it less dishes to do and less stuff for me to worry about and realistically less work in the long run for me? Yes, I think this works better for me. So, we filter, as I showed earlier, we filter through more of the old-fashioned cone filters on our canner, which is a Smoky Lake bottler. It's a canner, bottler, whatever you want to call it. You can finish on that as well. It has a flat filter for that. I also have the vacuum flat filter set up. So later in the year, once that niter or sugar sand really, really starts building up, I might use the vacuum, but right now the gravity filter works just fine. And again, if you're doing it for yourself, I would recommend against going wild filtering. We do it because we sell it. All right, if I was just doing this for myself, I would run it through probably just one pre-filter and call it a day. But we're selling it, people want it to be more clear. I understand that completely. If I'm buying a product, I want to be able to use the whole thing and not have an ounce at the bottom that is not going to be used for your pancake syrup. All right, let's see. We're right here. We're just in the screen. Again, this is our draw off. This is reading 8.5, so we should be past. Let's see where we're at. Try to make this so you can see it here. Oh yeah, so I'm going to kick this on real low, just to draw across a bit more. Okay, so I want to draw that sugar across. Let me bring this over here so you can see. We had said this red line is where it's syrup, right? So if it's sinking below that red line, it's not syrup. If it's above that red line, it's syrup. I can push it down. It bobs a little bit, but let's just say we push it down a little bit and let it as well past syrup. As it cools, it will continue to float more. And then the other thing is the drip test. See how that drips a little different? It kind of sheets off, they call it. It's gooey and sticky on the end. That's some nice syrup right there. We are past syrup, yes. It'll be just fine. So far we've drawn probably about 2 quarts off this draw. I'm going to do another test here quick. I will probably do this test and then let everything catch back up again. Personally, I would rather draw every half hour or so, something like that, rather than a whole bunch of big draws. That's still just past syrup. Remember, our float box on the other side needs to keep up too. So you can keep drawing across and it's going to keep breathing syrup, but you're going to end up pulling all the fluid out of your pans. You don't want to do that, right? Because you're going to burn your pans. So as we draw here, our float box on this other side flows in the front and it works its way across. If I crack this wide open and just let it run, it's going to burn everything and it's going to be horrible. Along with the fact that it's going to ruin this pan, and these are not cheap to replace. Along with it would just shut me down for a whole year because I don't have a spare set. A lot of the big guys big producers will have a spare front pan because mistakes are made. I was talking with a buddy of mine the other day. He said basically there's three types of sugar makers out there. Three types of maple syrup guys out there. There's guys who have burned their front pan. There's guys who will burn their front pan but haven't done it yet. And the third set is the people who are lying about burning their front pan. So there's only three. It will happen at some point. You hope it doesn't. We work really hard so it doesn't. I'm sure there's a couple people out there who really have not burned their front pan. But that's something we were very careful with here. As everything is flowing out, this is starting to drop back down to where it's not quite syrup. But because we drew off so much that was past syrup, what I do is I do a quick crack like that, just to give it that little shot of not quite syrup so that mixes in. Again, before it bottles, before it gets bottled, we test everything so we make sure it's still syrup. And if it goes inside, it makes it inside to the bottle, or it's not quite syrup, it's very, very easy to heat it back up, bring it to syrup. Not a problem at all. Let me put my little top back on. There we go. And we're ready for more firewood. Figure I should lose about 30 pounds out here over 2 weeks. I'm exaggerating, but you're basically in a steam room the entire time you're working out here. It'd be helpful if I could remember where I put my gloves. Here they are. All right. Doing good. Boats are working. The preheat hood is working. Front pan is down back where it should be, which is great. Still got great bubble, great oil across everything. Get some more wood on there. There we go. Thank you everybody for watching. If you haven't, if you're new to our channel, I would appreciate a subscribe. You can even subscribe and then click the don't get notified for when we do lives or post videos, things like that. But the subscriptions help us keep doing what we love, which is making these videos, making syrup, and inviting you into our lives while we're making syrup, making this product. So anytime somebody subscribes, they like, they share, things like that, it hits that YouTube algorithm, and it does help us. It's been a fun adventure over the last couple of years, making some videos about different things that we do, things that we enjoy, maple syrup, other stuff like that. Definitely been fun. All right, let's see if I can get you close here to show you exactly how this defoam works. Again, pardon the bad view for a moment. Phone's pretty hot, so hopefully it'll continue to work. All right. You can see how foamy that is, right? It's building up a little bit. So we hit our drop, drop. A little hard to see in the phone, but it helps with that foam buildup. All right, there's our front pan. Nice view of it there. Again, here's these thermometers here. You can see it says boiling water at 0, syrup is 7. And there's our sight glass. Bad angle, but there's the sight glass. You can see it's bouncing the way it should. If I come down here, maybe get you underneath and over. There we go. You can see we're right at the lower level of where we want to be. With that float kicked in, brought it back up. So everything is running great. So yeah, here's the setup. We got those old buckets up there. A little nostalgia, you know? It's a good thing. This is a homemade sugar house. This is nothing fancy. This was off the side of our garage. We put the tarp there to help keep the wind down. There's my phone stand. This is nothing fancy. We built a couple little shelves as we went. This is part of this right here is part of that Smoky Lake filter bottler. A couple shelves. All the siding. All this was junk from a sawmill. They were going to throw it all away. We just cut it down to what we needed. I mean, they couldn't use that because it had a hole in it. Well, I don't care. Works just fine. We've got a couple spare hydrometers back here. Oh, I was talking about sap hydrometer before. This is the sap hydrometer. And right on it, it says bricks for sap at 38 degrees Fahrenheit. So you want your sap about 38 degrees, and that'll show you what your sugar content is, right? Whether it's 1%, 2%, 3%, etc. Those are a couple little ones we made a couple years ago. These, they call them nips. These little nip bottles are impossible to fill. They're rather painful. So, spare thermometer back here in case we break anything. Very important. Keep your fire extinguisher handy. Right over here we looked at before, we were talking about the condensation coming off. You can see the steam coming out the front. That silver tube, stainless tube, has our steam from the back. Both of these copper pipes are condensation. And you can see how well that one is running. It's running great. Again, this is a LaPierre setup. This is the LaPierre Vision setup. We ordered it with a preheat hood. Oh, here you go. There's our test cup. Here's our float set up for the front pan. Comes out of the back, comes through. Again, it's all adjusted right here. Back up so you can see it. There we go. It's all adjusted right here by this threaded rod. Really simple float setup. We're back to the front pan. And we got to put more sugar on. Sorry, got to put more wood on. But it's looking good. It's boiling great. You can see by those bubbles. Usually when you hit those bubbles, you're basically syrup. But like I said, we're bringing it right to syrup. All right, let's see. Boom. There we go. All right. Yeah. Cool. Get these gloves, and I said it was just about syrup. It's at 6 degrees right now. On, again, 6 degrees on this thermometer, which means it's 218 degrees. Assuming that today water is boiling at 212, I don't know where it's boiling today, but we'll assume. Any questions, comments, anything like that, feel free to comment. I will do my best to answer. Again, assuming that I set comments. I don't remember if I did that. And I don't think I can turn them on once I start the live feed if I didn't do that. Take a break from talking for a minute, start losing my voice. A little warm back there. So that's the new setup. I just saw a comment come across yesterday. You're welcome for the tour. Glad you're able to do it. Taking a few days to get everything figured out and worked out. I actually had a failure. I don't even know if Abby knew. We had a failure on part of the new arch. I had to fix that this morning. It was a little bit frustrating, honestly, because one of the reasons we're purchasing a new one was we wanted to have a little bit less time spent working on it and more time producing. You would hope that a brand new setup would be really, really good. There was an issue. I am by no means a professional welder, but I was able to get it fixed. So right where the door hinge hooks in, the door is bolted on, but where that connection is, there was a piece of angle iron. It's about the same on the other side. So right here, and I actually repaired this one too. This one had started to crack. I put my gloves on just in case I touch that because it's a little bit warm there. Right here, it had started cracking out, and it had actually cracked all the way down to here, over there on that side. Because it was doing that, the door wasn't sealing the way it was supposed to, and every time we opened the door, it was flexing. So what I did yesterday was I took a furniture clamp, one of those old metal furniture clamps, hooked it from here back to here. Again, I should really put my gloves on because I'll accidentally touch something and fry my fingers. But we hooked it from here to here, squeezed it back together, and that was able to get us through the day yesterday. I didn't actually notice it right away, so that was kind of a field fix. Today, I took the door off, I ground everything down, we welded this all up nice, and judging from what I see so far, it would appear that at least mostly, it's working okay. There's one little hairline crack there, but compared to what it was, it looks like my my weld somewhat held up, so that's good. Like I said, I am by no means a welder, but for more wood. One thing, you know, I kind of miss some of the old arch stuff. This is an insulated front door, which is really nice. Doesn't get nearly so hot. I mean, it's got this handle which doesn't get hot at all. I can actually, I think, yeah, that's cool. So I can touch that without gloves on. Once you get down in here, it gets a lot hotter. The door does get warm, but not sizzle your skin off hot. We've got some gloves around where they had actually touched the door, and if you remember, that leader door had like a sugar house and a maple tree or something like that, and when we had touched it, it branded the whole back of the glove. So this is a lot nicer as far as that goes. This setup is actually safer for kids around, which is cool too. You know, every single year we make improvements. Every year it gets a little better. At least I like to think it gets a little better. Try to do things that make sense, and upgrades that make sense, that will either help production or production time, so productivity, or will help the quality of the syrup, or the final thing would be to actually be able to make more syrup at the end of the year. So I think this year we gained about 30 taps. The last couple years we've been trying every year to gain 15 taps, 25 taps, 30, somewhere in there as we expand a little bit. So that was part of the reason for upgrading this, is this will allow us to be somewhere around 400 taps and handle it without needing to consider the reverse osmosis system. I would argue you can run this with 500 taps. It just means you got to work harder. And if you know me, I'm not scared of a little bit of work. I'm not scared of a lot of work, I guess, actually. But that is our new setup. Back to this evaporator as a whole. This is from LaPierre. We ordered this through Shaver Hill. Get back in the screen here. There we go. We ordered this through Shaver Hill Maple up in Harpersfield, New York. That's up towards Oneonta Way. If you go up there, right outside of Stamford, New York, not Connecticut, Stamford, New York. They did an open house with LaPierre. They had a LaPierre rep there. They helped us set everything up. It's customized the way we wanted it. One of the things that they can do is they can say, what side do you want your draw off? What side do you know, and based off what side you want your draw off is what side your infeed is going to be in. So little things like that. This door, you can change it. So a little bit like your dryer door, your washer, or yeah, your dryer doors you can change. We have to change some bolts and things like that. But all of this can be swapped to open the other way. But from the factory, they said, how do you want your door to open? Well, we like our door to open this way. It works well for our setup here. I don't know if it works well for our setup or just what we were used to with the old one, but this is the way we wanted the door to open. LaPierre, Vision evaporator. This is still considered a hobby evaporator, believe it or not, which is wild. This is still a hobby evaporator. It's just the largest of the hobby evaporators. Once you get bigger than this, if you go into the commercial stuff, we are considered a hobby producer. We don't produce enough to be a commercial producer, but everything we do is still considered hobby. However, it has become a little bit of a business. It's also excellent for mental health. Just being in here, walking around this thing, listening to the boil, the steam. I would say it kind of helps clear your head, even though you're a sticky mess by the time you're done. You're done for the day. You can't wait to jump in the shower just because it's hot and sticky and sweaty. But this is great for mental clarity, at least for me. I find it soothing. I find it very enjoyable. This, for us in the landscape world, our business up here, especially in the Northeast, in the Hudson Valley of New York, when this fires up, it signals the end of winter and the beginning of our spring work. And it's kind of that giant sigh of relief of we've made it through another winter. We had a great winter this year for plowing snow. It was very successful. We've got 2 guys working for us full time all winter, which has been excellent. Love it. That's been a really big help. So that has been a great stress relief for us. But once this thing fires up, it's kind of that we can taste spring. It's maybe equivalent to some people when you see your first robin, or the Canadian geese are flying north. They've been flying all day. This is that type of a thing for me. And this is very personal, especially because it's something that I did for years and years with my grandfather. Something that meant a lot to him, so in turn, it's something that means a lot to us. We are ready to draw again with the looks of things. So let's see if I can get this a little closer here so you can see what a draw looks like from a little more personal standpoint, hopefully. A little better? Hey, a little better. All right. Just gonna keep that pot lid there. It helps. That does just enough to keep the dirt and grime from when we're opening that door, feeding the fire. Some of that dust comes out. We want to keep that out of here, even though this is our filter. Now, you can't really see, and I'm not going to move the camera now. This one's reading 9, that one's reading 8, so we should be good. Do a quick crack here. See where we are. All right. Like I said, you're going to spill some. When that's under there, it makes it way better. It's going to go in. You don't want to drop these. Oh, there we go. You don't want to drop these. You want to go slow. Let them go in nice and slow. Yeah, that's definitely past syrup. So what we're going to do, we're going to crack this open a little bit. Some guys like to crack it open wide. Some people like to go the low and slow, kind of the slow burn as I call it. But that helps pull that syrup across that front pan nice and slow. And let me grab this phone here. Turn this around so you can see. Come on. There it is. All right, there's our thermometers. You can see where this guy is right about at 8. That guy's right about at 9. And then there's our syrup bubbles. You can see how that's a different type of bubble than, let's say, that. If you look at the bubbles, they just look different. All right, we're going to crack that back down. So that was a nice draw. We just drew off, I would say, another 2 quarts or thereabouts. So if we've drawn off, we've probably drawn a little more than a gallon today so far. Let's test this again. We'll do a little bit more. Sorry if I'm wiggling the camera here, but there we go. Do one more test here on this just to see where we are. Gotta be careful with the hydrometers. They are delicate. So if you own one, be careful with it. Don't break it into your syrup, for example. That's a good way to ruin your day. So I was saying before, if you open this wide and just go with your thermometer, you're going to draw that whole front pan out way faster than that float can keep up. You're gonna fry your pan. All right, can you see in there? See how that's still syrup? It's still just above. That's actually at 61 brix, B-R-I-X. That's still definitely syrup. We're gonna let that float catch up just a touch, which it's doing right now. This is down at 6.5. That's down at 5.5. Bubbles are a little different. Everything that went in this was more than syrup, so we're gonna hit it quick. And that's gonna mix a touch under syrup with everything that was over syrup. I don't have a good formula for this. I just want to say I've got a good eye at it, because I tested it the other day before we bottled, and it came out just about perfect, just a touch heavy. And everybody tells me they like the Aunt Jemima type syrup, right? We want that heavy, thick syrup, stuff like that. I understand that. I love that too. But what'll happen is if I do a real heavy syrup, because I do it for a buddy of mine, I bring syrup way past syrup. I take 2 quarts, put it in a pot, draw it down to him even more. We thicken it up a lot more, and it ends up being, I would say, a quart and a heavy quart and a half instead of that 2 quarts. If he keeps it in the fridge for a long time, or stores that for a long time, you get these giant sugar crystals at the bottom. And what it'll basically do is the syrup will, if it's too heavy, it'll crystallize, and then it won't be as syrupy. It'll still be straight syrup, but that's what'll happen with that. So we've tried that a few times. We always go a touch past syrup. All of our customers like it a little bit better. Without fail, everybody that we've talked to has enjoyed our syrup. Some people have said it's the best they've ever had. Other people have just said it's really great. Either way, as long as you're enjoying it, I'm happy. You're happy with the product you're buying from us, that's great. That makes me happy. That makes it feel more worthwhile. Put this back here. There we go. Gotta get some more fire in there. I wish you could smell through the phone. I wish you could smell through the phone, because it, first couple days it was a real light butterscotch type smell. You could tell it was sweet. Didn't really know what it was. It wasn't really mapley yet. Takes the first couple days to get that real maple smell going. Now, when you walk on the property, you're outside the door, the guys come home or come back here, they jump out of the truck. Abby pulls up with the kids later. The first thing you're going to smell is heavy maple smell, and it's awesome. feel like you always end up dropping the piece on the ground and having to put your face in front of it to grab it. All right, we are flowing good. And make sure you stay hydrated. A lot of times I will actually drink the sap. I haven't been doing that too much this year, actually. I don't know why. I just haven't been. Probably could. Funny thing is, you're in this, you're into humidity, you're into moisture. You don't really think about the fact that you get really, really thirsty. Kind of like when you're in a pool. When you're in a pool, you don't think about the fact that you get thirsty, and then later that night you're trying to figure out why you're dehydrated. Because you were in water all day, you didn't feel like you needed it, but you really do. The other thing I forget to do is I get going on this. I forget to eat. And you can't really leave this. You might notice right now I'm the only one here today, right now, currently at least. Owen said he was going to stop back at some point. I think Mike was going to come down and have lunch here, but I'm the only one here right now, so I'm watching everything. I'm firing it. I'm drawing off. I'm making sure that the floats are working right, the filters are working right, all that stuff is being done. So that's a lot to keep up on. You cannot leave this. Once this gets fired up, for safety reasons alone, you don't want to leave this, right? Because this is really hot. I forget what temperature fired brick glows at, but about 35 to 40 minutes in, you get the first glow on that fire brick, and that'll glow from that time until we decide to give it up for the day. So you can't leave this. Like I said, it's kind of nice. I've got this phone here now that's doing the live. And I got the one in my pocket. Get some more wood on this, and I got to switch the filters out and clean them before the next draw. And we got the fires of Mount Doom here. We got to keep these going. That'll keep me for a couple minutes so I can clean a couple filters. I'll drop off the screen here for a minute or three. That condensation from that hood is essentially distilled water. Hot distilled water is absolutely amazing as a cleaning agent. It cleans the niter right out of these filters. You'll see as I do this, it might be just off the screen. But swapping some filters out over here. We're trying to swap some filters out over here. Missing the tool. There it is. Got a little set of pliers I use to hold on to the filter because it's so hot. Right, this sugar holds the heat, the syrup holds the heat. Remember, we're drawing this off at 219 to 220 degrees. Right now, in here, it's still 150 or 160 degrees. So we want to pull these filters out without burning our fingers too bad. I end up burning myself. I got burns all over me by the time the sugar season's done. That's just part of it, but it's nice if you don't light yourself on fire, basically. All right, we'll bring this over here. You see how dirty that is? That is completely natural. That is that niter, N-I-T-E-R or N-I-T-R-E, depending on how you prefer to spell it. Our condensation catchers over here, the 5-gallon buckets. You might hear me. I don't know if you can. Splashing around over here. Rinse that out right in there. It works great. Really, really great. A couple seconds ago I walked past with a dirty filter. Now we walk past with a clean one. That's that same filter. Same filter. Looks like I got to set up a charger here for my phone because it's starting to die. But maple syrup season is in full swing. Again, we're hoping it makes it through the warmth today and tomorrow, and it resets on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And we get a couple more good runs. That would be great. We've not made nearly as much as we would like to right now. So let me try to figure out a charging system here for this phone. That way we can keep our live stream going. How many trees tapped? We've got 350 taps out or thereabouts, which is somewhere in there. I'll do the final count at the end of the year. I lost track. I actually lost track of how many spiles we put out this year. Usually I do a better job counting, but this year we were just pushing to get things done. And the how many trees tapped is a very common question. It's always a little bit difficult to answer because we do have some trees that have 2 taps in a tree. Apologize for the right in front of the camera here. I'm just trying to set this up so we can get a charger going. Phone already shut down once because it got too hot, so there we go. Let's see. Now we're charging. So Cornell has done studies. We listen to studies. They help us in the industry a lot. It's important. Cornell has done studies that says 1 tap will collect 60% of the available sap in that tree. So putting a 2nd tap in does not mean that you're going to double your production, which is a change from what we used to think years ago. It doesn't mean you shouldn't put that 2nd tap in, it just means you should be a little more cautious of over tapping. I won't tap anything under 10 inches. They say you can. I don't. I prefer to see about 12 before we actually start tapping it actively. But I'll also look at how these trees grow. If we've got a sugar bush like I do up in bluestone and up in shale, we will tap a little bit more aggressively at that 10-inch mark because they are really slow growing trees. So you might have the trees outside my sugar house here, there's 2 that could very easily be tapped, and they're a whole lot younger because they grew so much faster than the ones that we're tapping up back in the sugar bush. How long have we been doing? I've been doing this for, well, basically since I was born with my grandfather. Today we've been boiling for right about 2 hours, however long this live has been going. I think we started the live and then started the boil, or lit the fire only a minute or 2 after the live. Everybody asks what this is here. This is a vegetable oil that goes in and it helps the boil sustain itself. Basically what happens is as the sugar boils, it gets a really big layer of foam. We hit that little bit of oil on it, it drops that foam right down. So it works great. Does not affect the flavor of the syrup at all. We'll do it back too, because we get some foam back there. That little 4-ounce bottle I was saying earlier will last me about 4 years. So it lasts a long time. Later in the season we get, the more foam there is. I'm sure there's a scientific reason to why that is. I don't know off the top of my head. Later in the season, there is also significantly more niter, which is what I just walked past in that one filter, that dark sugar sand. If you're boiling with the kids, you don't need a fancy filtering setup. Filter it just through some clean cotton, something that's 100% cotton, filter through that. Or you can buy a special filter for the maple syrup. I don't recommend it. I would say just do a simple filter through something clean. And you're going to have that little bit of settling in the bottom of, let's say if you can, the mason jar. You have a little settling in the bottom of that mason jar, but that's not a big deal. It's all natural. It's something that you can eat. It doesn't taste great. It's a little bit gritty, but in oatmeal you don't notice the grit, and it gets some sweetness along with minerals. And my kids like to just eat it because, well, kids are kids. They like to eat weird stuff, right? My grandmother always used that sugar sand in baking. My mother used to use it in like a calico beans, a baked beans type of a thing, as sweetener. Then this is the Lapierre Vision evaporator, along with their pan set up for that, which is a raised flue system compared to a drop flue system. Get back in camera here. Basically what that means is flues are like fingers. So a drop flue is going to have the fingers that drop down into the fire, and where my fingers are is where the sap would sit. Raised flue is opposite, and what that is the fire is going to flow where my fingers are. I know it sounds kind of weird, but basically when you've got your flat pan raised flue, the fingers are up. They come up like this. See if I can draw on it a little bit. There we go. I don't know if people will see that. Maybe? Maybe. So your flues go up. That's your back pan, is a raised flue. And the fire rolls through each one of those flues, which gives you an enormous amount more surface area for that heat transfer to happen. That's one of the reasons the evaporators are so efficient. Right? It's a 7-inch flue. So that's 7 inches up, about, I'll stick my head in and look actually. Just so I'm giving a good, without burning myself. So it's 7 inches up, about 2 inches across and 7 inches down. So each flue has approximately 16 inches of space that fire is touching, plus you've got your bottom, right? So rather than just 2 feet of flame touching your 2-foot pan, you have, I forget how many flues is in this, whether it's 7 or 8, something like that, but you have a massive increase in the amount of heat transfer that can happen because of the flues in the pan. Right? When I did it with my grandfather, all we had was flat pans. We didn't really understand that stuff. It wasn't an option at the time. They were still just coming out with evaporators, especially with the flue type evaporators. So he had a flat pan, not much bigger than this. I think it was probably a 2x4, or it might, it might have even been smaller than that. I don't remember. And he burned just hardwood. And it was the heat that would cause that evaporation. Now we're burning hemlock, pine, spruce, any of those softwoods, and it throws that flame. And when I say it throws that flame, it really throws that flame. Our old one was 6 feet long. This is 8. But our old one was 6 feet long with 12 feet of stack. So it was 18 feet firebox to the end of the stack. We would have flame sometimes coming out that stack, which is really cool. This one we haven't done that yet, which actually means we are operating more efficiently, right? Because if I'm throwing 12 feet of flame out of stack, that means that's 12 feet of flame that's not being used for anything good. So while it's cool, it's not necessarily the right way to go, but the fluted pan makes such a huge difference in that heat transfer. So that's why we can get in that 45, 50 gallon an hour range, somewhere in there. Some of that depends on weather. I'm not going to get that today. A little bit cooler day actually seems to help things evaporate faster. So yeah, the flues are like fingers. The sap sits in it and the fire runs through it. And the way this arch works is across the back, it's flat all the way, and then right towards the end there's a little ramp that the fire goes up, and you can watch it. The flame actually goes up, goes back down, and then goes up the stack. So it forces the flame to run through those flues. But so far everything's running good today. We're having a good day. I'm enjoying it, which is always good. I did a little weld repair earlier today. It looks like it's holding good, so that's great. definitely go through some firewood doing this. We transport all of our firewood in IBC totes down to here, the tractor. So everything is stored in IBC totes all summer long. It's a great way for us to store it, move it efficiently without having to touch it a lot as far as load it in the back of the truck and then things like that. Just go into it with the forks, pick it up, bring it down here. On a day that we're really boiling, we will go through anywhere from 2 to 3 totes. So far today, in 2 hours, I've gone through a half a tote. Yesterday, I went through a little bit less because I had it cranked a little bit lower yesterday. But the goal is today I want no sap left in our holding tank because it's going to be warm today, tonight, and tomorrow. So what I can do is I can get all the sap out of our holding tank. We can go up there with a hose. We can wash everything out, get everything clean for the next batch that comes in. Keeping this whole setup clean is key. You can put good sap into a holding tank that's been dirty, and you're really not doing yourself any favors. Take that extra hour, clean things up. So I was saying earlier today when I started this live stream is what I did last night. I let everything cool down. We drained all the sweet off the front pan. So that's anything that was close to syrup, any of the hot sap that was in this front pan, drained everything off. I dumped a whole bucket of the condensate from the back hood, which again is nothing more than distilled water that runs off from that back hood. Dump that in the front pan along with some 30% vinegar, and that helped clean it right up nice. So that makes filtering a lot easier for us today. It also makes that heat transfer better because you have that niter build up, and it actually gets hard and flaky almost. You have that niter build up in that front pan, then you're going through metal, then the niter, and then making it boil. So if you get rid of that niter, it's a lot better. Somebody's here, so we might have to go on mute for a little bit.
That's a little toasty in here. So how often do you have to throw wood in?
A couple minutes. Yeah. Warm.
Like a sauna in here.
Oh yeah. You get done with the day, all you want to do is get in the shower. Because you're just sticky and nasty. Yeah.
We're almost done for truck and Port Almondor.
Oh, good. There's gonna be a lot more wood up there before it's done, though.
Oh yeah. I'm building walls now so we can start filling it.
Okay, cool. Cool. Yep.
It smells delicious.
Oh, it tastes good too. When it's cold out, it produces a lot more steam, visible steam. It's still steaming off good right now, but the cold makes it so you can really see it. All that
water was coming in. So all the steam's going up, it's supposed to be going up. So, because it goes in cold. It goes in cold, and when you get cold, obviously it gets heat. It pushes the gravity for steam to build up moisture. And so it runs through that V, and that's what this runs on past this one. This is just a catch rain that goes down the outside.
Okay.
Purple.
How much you think you make today?
I don't know. We drew off.
Nobody went by me, just went up here once tonight.
No, there's none that ran yesterday. We pulled the lines for today. Anything that runs today is not going to be good. We pulled the lines today. We'll put them back in tomorrow night. Just hopefully that freeze will reset it. I don't truly know. We started with 325 today. So assuming 2% shook out. Yeah. I'm tired. Yeah. Theoretically, what was in the tank should make 8 gallons. Theoretically. If it's at 2.05 or 2.1, which is probably close. And I got a test recorder.
Oh, so fancy.
Good 2 gallons in there and 2.5 there. So we bottled, I think 6 yesterday sitting on the counter. I get talking and then I forget what I'm doing.
My grandfather did it with a spoon.
He would tell you that we serve with a spoon. If we sell it. Red line is syrup. If it's light, it goes low. If it's heavy syrup, it goes above. If it's fast syrup. Heater gauge thermometer. So boiling water to 0, which is 212-ish. And then 7 is syrup. So fast syrup on that too.
Cheesecloth.
Special, yeah. Similar, this one's a really heavy felt. They used to make these out of wool.
Oh,
They stopped doing that, I don't know why.
too many hairs.
I never had any in mine. See how the bubbles are different front to the back? Not burning yourself.
Why is that?
Because it's, as it gets heavier, it works its way towards the back. That was every bit of 2 quarts. Yeah, so the sap from the preheater comes in to the front here, works its way through, then it comes through over here to the syrup pan and works its way back.
Okay.
It's fun. Let me jump in here again. Can't draw too much or else you'll fry your front pan.
So just a little bit at a time.
Yeah, you gotta keep up with the float on the other side too. Before you do that, And when it gets all runny like that, that's syrup. That's how my grandfather did it. Done. And usually the kids are here to eat the ribs. But if you keep it hot, it flows through the filters better. Yep. Owen enjoys it a lot. He likes to hang out. Oh yeah. My buddy's supposed to show up and pick up the phone. Started with you late this morning. Or he texted me and he said, "We're talking to you." So. Yeah, the first day, 2 days it was running, you could smell it was sweet, but it wasn't no mapley. Now it's starting to get that maple smell. So, and it's still maple syrup, it's just a lighter, it's actually a lot better for the sugar.
Okay.
So the light syrup does a better maple sugar candy. The darker, I prefer for maple flavoring. And then what they used to do was, used to go what they called, what your friend's wife was asking for, grade B for cooking.
Yeah.
Because it's really strong maple flavor. But now that's the most asked for syrup. I don't know why. Something has changed in the last 10 years. Before it was you could hardly give this stuff away. So it would go in bulk. They would put it in 55-gallon drums and send it to like the maple extract factories of cooking. Now, I think I've got 3 people that ask for light. Everybody else wants dark. And it does, it tastes better. In my mind. It all tastes good, but it's better.
And now we save the light for sugar. That really does look down quick.
That's why I said we needed the bigger pieces. Because these are actually bigger pieces, but the little ones were like 10 of them long. Probably because the next one will have bigger stuff. Yeah, if you keep up with it, you can feed it like every 2 minutes. 3 or 4 or 5 sticks, something like that. But it gets hot enough that the fire brick glows.
I can imagine what it looks like in there at night.
The old one, that is one thing that I miss about the old evaporator. The whole center of the door would glow red. When you were really running it, the whole door would glow red. If you're a half-inch steel. Or half-inch cast.
That's hot.
Oh yeah.
That's really, really hot.
You touch it with a stick of wood, it would catch fire. Yep. So that wasn't great with kids around. This is still really hot, but it's not sizzle your skin hot. If you touch it, you'll get burnt, but not deformed burn. So, I mean, that glass will sizzle your skin, but
Well, that's why it's orange and you don't touch.
yeah, exactly. My weld is holding up. That was there. So far it's holding up, so that's good. Yeah. It's a fun hobby.
It's not hot, it smells good.
Yeah.
Most people like their hobbies of fishing or golf, right? I pick work as a hobby.
So I was saying to Owen, it's so nice out there to go fishing.
Oh, it is. It's just about, yeah. Rusty actually said he was going to go fishing the other day. He had his poles in his, he was heading up north somewhere though.
Once warm weather consistently hits, there will always be a pole and lures in my truck.
Yep. Yeah, it's hard because the reservoir is a nice place to fish, but it's hard to catch much there with the kids. You know, I don't mind going there and
They want an adventure.
playing. Yeah, right. But I also don't mind going there and playing around for an hour and not catching anything.
Yeah.
The kids, you need a bass pond.
So I said to Owen, if Jane and Joyce end up calling you and we gotta mow that, I'm going there with a couple 5-gallon buckets to get all my bass out. And then I'm moving them up the road to Anthony's pond. This way I can continue fishing for them. There's monsters in there. I put them in there out of Beaver Lake like this, and now there's ones in there like this.
We've been laughing because the neighbor's got a pond. It's a small pond, right? I said it'd be fun to just have ducks and let them go in her pond. Actually, it wouldn't surprise me to see geese there over the next couple of weeks because they usually, if there's a small flock, they'll fly in there. The big ones end up in the reservoir. But.
Yeah. You know, we get 6 every year, usually around this time. They hang out for 2 weeks and
Yep.
then they take off.
Yep.
But,
They've been flying the last couple of days. I haven't seen them.
Sunday we were outside with the kids and I probably watched about 10, 12 flocks go over.
Oh.
Hundreds of pop-up towers. Go back to the book. I'll have to check that out. That's why I really on the radar. Usually they go right through there. I don't know why they don't go back. You know, you go north, and they go right through that clear right there. They were coming through every direction at that night.
Well, you're a little closer to the reservoir, so they might be.
Looking at the flock behind my house, so
Oh, right.
I watched a small flock of them go down that way, but yep. It'll be nice for duck season. Just walk into my backyard. We used to get ducks in the little pond at the old house, but they didn't like it too much when I threw a couple deep ones in there.
It's funny because the old one was 14 foot. So you couldn't see the two. Typically line up. You know,
Yep. Running good though. I'll take it. But I'm happy my well held.
if it really goes down like I'm doing something too slow or something. Cedar's wild. We're in Cedar. have a pump barrel going, have a big again, that's good stuff. I don't mind it, it's like up there right now.
For how long?
Yeah, you can hear the difference in the boil. Yeah, so the main evaporation happens in the back. That's where most of the boil happens. It's like 5-to-1. But this still steams a lot better than my old front one did. So. Yeah, back here you can see it running in actually.
Close that. That's how fast it's running through right now.
Yeah.
You figure if it's running 50 gallons an hour, it's just under a gallon a minute. That's fast. Even at 40 gallons an hour, it's two-thirds of a gallon a minute.
Yep. The old one would run 40. This one I think I've been running at like 42 to 45. It's a very expensive hobby, but this one at least is one that gives a return. Plus it's also as we move forward, the entire farm exemption is based off of maple. So, because the ag district through New York State, which then goes to the county, is based off of the maple production. They come in, they inspect everything, they look at everything, they take pictures, then it goes in front of the county legislature. They look through all the pictures and documentation, then they vote on approval or not. Then they send their findings to the town board. The town board then looks at it all. They vote on their approval or not, and send it back to the county for final approval. Wild.
Sounds like a process.
It's been 3 years. It's a 3-year process, but we're getting there. It's approved now as an agricultural district in New York. That 24 acres back there. Which gives a legal protection, basically all it does. There's no taxes on it, there's no tax difference on that, for that. That's just a designation, and it gives legal protection if you get sued. So like Ingram's are an agricultural district for the farm. So if Joe Blow buys the house next to him, right next to him, and John's spreading manure, and he sues John because it's stinky, the state sends a lawyer down.
if it goes to court, and the state will defend the farmer. It's interesting. It's something that has changed in the last like 10 years, I think. So, which is nice to see because everybody's suing the farmers over everything, and
You're too loud.
that's part of it too. Usually it's the manure smell, especially the spreading in the spring like you're doing right now, because the field just melted off and he's out there slopping it.
Yeah.
It's stinky. Actually, if you go up to Eklund, Stanford, they might still have snow cover, but in the next couple weeks, those guys are going to be squirting the liquid manure everywhere. Oh man, I don't mind the smell, but when you first get into it for the day, it's
Breathtaking.
breathtaking is a good word. Oh, so we're ready to pull again. So I keep the cup hot over here too. Keep the sugar out of it. So it keeps it hot so it doesn't cool down.